Business and Economic Forum. I have my guest with me here and panelist, regular panelist, Mr. Depu Zuo, the resident economic. He's the economist and also a consultant on the PAPD, that's the Pro-Po agenda. Mr. Zuo, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon to my viewers and listeners out there, and good evening to our people back in Liberia.
Thank you, Depu. We also asked the editor of the Business and Economic Forum, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Welcome. Thank you. Let's talk money and economics today.
Right. This is where we talk money because, Ecclesiastes 10:19, I believe the Bible. Money answer everything. So we're here to talk money. And this is open mic. And gentlemen, again, welcome. Let me give you a chance for a brief opening statement on open mic and what should our listeners expect. I start with Mr. Chuchu Jones.
Well, we want day to be a day where if you have economic questions, personal or otherwise, national, what's going on with all the politics in Liberia, what are some of the implications of it? Also, keep in mind that after all of this subside, people still got to have jobs, they still got to get money. So one way or another, I think this is the day where you want to ask yourself those questions. Where are we going from here economically in Liberia? What's the future look like? What people who are struggling, how will they make ends meet? Protest, no protest, they still got to eat. So let's ask those questions. How?
Thank you. So you heard from Alex. If you have any question concerning money, economics, business, finance in Liberia, at the end of the day, people have to eat. Mr. Zuo, your opening statement.
Yes, thank you. I think today is an opportunity for us to share view. And one of the things I always want to talk about with Liberians is to look at economic nationalists. How Liberian can become economic nationalist. I know the best thing to do for any country is to ensure that you have people who drive, you call them off-taker of every sector in the economy. That who are those that are the off-takers, that are people who drive in certain sector. How many Liberians have the potential, the opportunity, the ability to do that? These are things we need to look at. So who are those that we can identify? Who are those that are interested in such a thing, especially among the Liberian here in the United States or in the diaspora as a whole? What are some of the area of interest that you can now say, I can go into this sector and drive it? And we can also talk about, what are some of the opportunities in those sectors? So there's an open conversation. You might want to select the service sector, which is now contributing more to the Liberian economy in terms of the GDP is one area. Service sector is great. The financial services, tourism, and all of these things are all important that drive the Liberian economy as we speak.
Thank you, Mr. Zuo. Mr. Zuo?
Yes.
Alex, I am getting a feedback there.
Okay, hold on 1 second. You good?
We were good. What did you do? All right. And we'll be posting the number in a minute so that our people, our listeners will join the conversation from the start. But here is one area I want us to begin in this open mic, and that is private sector development in Liberia and the opportunities. Often I hear about private sector, let's develop the private sector. And sometimes when a political discussion starts and people say, oh man, everything government. What's about the private sector? People, you depend too much on government. And mind you, the same people when they are in power, they say, oh, everything government, private sector. When they are in opposition, then everything become opposition, become government prerogative. So let's start with this private sector. What is it? What are the opportunities in the private sector? How can it be developed? What is there when you say private sector development or private sector growth? Or let's develop the private sector. It's not all government. what is it? What are some of the engines that drive that? Who's responsible to building that private sector and the whole 9 yards? So let me start with Mr. Zuo, private sector development.
Yes, I think it's very much key to any economy and in terms of growth. What is very much important for Liberia is that we've actually relied more on the public sector to drive the economy, and nowhere in the world you have seen the public sector be the driver of growth. It's
Let me
indeed.
stop you because you're going to use these two terms, private sector, public sector. Let's start as a teacher. Let's start from the basics. What is public sector? What is private sector?
Public sector has to do with government and public issue that has to do with government control. Then that means government is in charge to provide jobs, to create jobs, to provide policy, guidance, and everything. But what is important here, even if you look at just the fundamentals of economics, the foundation will tell you for the circular flow in terms of production in the economy is actually, individual household will have to supply their labor. They gotta work, and when they work, they receive income from the work, which is the wages and goal, and that they go to buy items, and that itself become an income for the company, and the company will also use that to come and also purchase or hire another labor. So it's not possible that government doesn't just come into the economy or the flow of the economy. It is actually individual, household, firm, companies have to do the work before government come in. Government responsibility is to make sure that they have to receive taxes, and also regulate, production activity and other things, or provide policy guidance in it. But what is important there is the fundamental thing is that how individual can find himself useful with a right skill. That is a fundamental thing for any country to grow. So as a country, what we have not really done is to see how best can we empower individuals to know, first of all, besides the issue of labor, how the Liberian will have a strong skill, very capable skill to produce, and what are the knowledge level of the citizen to see how best they can produce on their own. And that itself is something that we need to prioritize as a country. If an individual is saying today that I'm going to be, let's say, produce rice or cucumber, simple vegetable like cucumber, the guys put in 12 hours in a day to say, I'm going to go on the farm, the time for transportation and movement, everything, 12 hours. He put in 12 hours in the day times 5 days a week. He's able to produce huge quantity of cucumber. And once he look at that and sell that on the market, his income in 3 months, in 3 month period, which is 90 days period for cycle production, you realize that you earn more income than going to the office to work. But what is very much lacking in Liberia is that individual does not have that private capital. He does not have opportunity to have access to cash to do whatever he wants to do. So what are the opportunities that we have? What are the challenges that we have in the economy? These are some of the important things that we need to be discussing.
And we're going to jump into those important things. Let me give Alex the opportunity to talk about private sector development. Alex? All right. Alex is having some technical difficulty right there.
Okay, so let me just continue with it. So one of the major things that there is the issue of capital formation is that how people actually look for capital. And it is very much important. If you look at economy like Liberia, you see that what are some of the financial institutions that are there that are providing, capital, that provide as a loan for citizens to start business. Do we have the right banks in the system? Banks are there, but one of the things most of the banks are actually doing deposit and withdrawal, and they're not looking for the right portfolio. And if you look at it realistically, it is something that Liberians themselves will have to sit down to look at it. I am still of the opinion that if we as a citizen focus more on how can we amass and how can we govern our resources to go into business, you will see growth will be very much, strong than what we have today. I've always given the example with individuals who started just selling from from gas bottle to a gas station, and they have a company, they have a restaurant, and they now have hotels that are operating in places like Ganta, Kakata, Bikena, and all of these places. These are things that need to be encouraged. And you will see that the more you get people working for themselves, earning income and paying taxes to government, it gives opportunity for government to actually grow the economy. And the more people become independent financially, because the thing about it is that work itself does not really give you that independent freedom. To be an employee, you are more limited to the scope of work that is given you. For you to become an entrepreneur is that you have to take risks and see how best you can utilize your time to increase your output in terms of whatever you are producing. And these are some of the advantages in terms of private sector development.
And where does this private sector development start? Let's say this is Liberia now. This is where we are.
Yes.
How does it start?
It's actually start with, first of all, having entrepreneurs, individuals who are willing to take risks. And you having financial institutions coming in to say, look, we have capital, we have financial capital, who are willing to take it, and you can take this loan and be able to invest it and give a return. And you design, like a business proposal and say, I want to go into fishery. What are some of the initial capital that I need? It's finance. I say I need equipment, I need labor, I need manpower. Maybe you have a skill in fishery. If you don't have a skill, you might need to look for individual people you can hire to actually work for you, and you can also go ahead and look for equipment like fishing boat and other things. If you don't have a financial capital initially to buy a boat, you can have a proposal that you can give it to the bank, and the bank be able to help you to purchase a boat. And once you buy a boat, it gives you opportunity now to start production of fish in the area of fishery. And this is a bigger market for Liberia. And I can tell you that, government will not be in a position to actually give us what we need in terms of loan. It is the commercial banks, other companies that are coming in that we can actually partner with them to see how best we can expand the fishery industry, fishery sector. For example, if we are to go into fishery, because fishery is another bigger market around the world. It's another area that Liberia has great potential. But we need partners. We need banks that are willing to lend to Liberians, to foreigners, people who want to invest into the system.
So again, it's like a chicken and egg situation I'm bringing about here, because when I say start, because it's like we want to look at the prerequisites. So the first thing we need, do we need the people or those entrepreneurs? Do we need the banks, or we need a government? Because those entrepreneurs should have the skills. How to get the skills? We should have the banks that have the loan. If the bank has the loan and nobody, what do? Then we should have the government that is able to create the kind of environment. So which one is number one?
I think for me, right now, the country is running. You have a government in place. The first thing that is needed is the entrepreneur, individuals who are willing to go into investors or entrepreneurs who are willing to take risks to go into that sector. And that the next thing that there is the banking system or financial capital availability, financial capital mobilization that can be done to either people who partner. You can, if there's no money here today, say, are you saying you need $50,000 for startup capital, for example? If the bank cannot lend you $50,000, what are some of the alternatives you have? Maybe the individuals, 5% could say we can mobilize $10,000 each and do capital pool and do a partnership project, joint venture to start a business. These are some of the opportunities. If the banks are not available, but individual with the financial, income, with better income can join and start, and that will be the best way out. I know Liberians will always say government should give. Even government does not give a loan without interest. So it's always good for us to know how to first of all make money. What price do we pay for individual with the financial, income?
Go ahead, Epo.
Yes. So like that, individual can now get together and say 4-5%. How can we do it? What is happening in the fishery industry? The fishery is a big business in Europe. Tuna fish is highly profitable market in Europe. What are we doing? Are we going to sit down to say government will give up money? No. You can now sit down and do a business proposal, do a very good proposal, and give it to a bank, either in Liberia or here in the United States or in Europe, and let them know what you do feasibility study. In fact, there are a lot of studies already done about the fishery industry.
Mm.
You look for these opportunities and see how best you can go into that. And I think you give yourself 5 years period, you can now become a serious employer. And as you employ people, there will be other opportunity to create more jobs for the people instead of waiting for government to employ you or the ministry, the fishery bureau to be the one to employ individual. Mm. That won't add value to what we have. Those are some of the challenges. Look at, we are now going to Senegal to form a cooperation with them into an agreement to give up boat, fishing boat, and rest of it. How big is that? What can we do as a country? People, individuals are here, and when Liberians here, when they do their tax returns, some of them can receive more than $4,000-5,000. If you 5% happen to get together and say, you know what, we're going to mobilize 2,000 each, and you got 10,000, you can get some startup capital for fishery, and that can pick up. It can be a beginning capital.
But the question people always ask is, they call it government creating the environment. And when they talk about the environment, they are talking about the laws. Okay, I have my fishery in Liberia. If I enter any problem and I go to court, will I get justice? You're trying to build your house and maybe 10 persons are laying claim to that same land. So then that's the time they expect the government to come in and dispense justice. You also have an area of security, armed robbery, and all these things. So these are the things people look, and there are other people too who, because of their political side, they have this self-fulfilling prophecy, because you want to paint the picture that whatever, not just this government, but whatever government is in power is incompetent or they are not doing this. So you are not going to go there, because if you go there and your business start thriving, you believe that is going to be a plus for the government. So you're going to hold back. So this whole idea of government creating the enabling environment, there are merits to it.
I'm not doubting government. Government is a driver. In fact, it's the owner of the state in terms of resources. Is the one that make the policy. What is important here is that what I want for us to think about is that how do we really take risks? You want to register. Is there business registration? Are there constraints to business registration? Yes, I know that there are some constraints. Even my own organization, for me to renew my business certificate, it took me a couple of almost going to 90 days before I could get that done. But the thing about it is that once you have it registered, what I'm saying is that those are part of the risks you take in terms of a business investment, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of development, economic development. You need to consider all of these things in your business, proposal writing. You need to look at some of those things as risks. But what is important here is that you have to do a market survey study. Something like fishery, it's a product, it's a demand for it. And you look at it in terms of internal domestic consumption of fish in Liberia, it's actually in demand. Liberians love eating fish. And then what's about the West Africa region? Obviously, there are other landlocked countries that are striving to even say get fish. And what's about other countries? You go across, in fact, even here in the United States, it's very expensive. Fish is more expensive than even the chicken and meat. And so what will you do as a country? You have an opportunity that you got a good land space, that you have all these species there. What can you do? You go into that. If there's any embarrassment or challenges from government, you need to now negotiate with government. That's what Liberians we need to be looking at, or we can find partners to go into. Yeah.
And you talk about capital pool. pulling capital together, being able
Yeah.
to do your market analysis and
Yeah.
tell, okay, this is the area I think I can go into develop. All these things require skills. If you
Yes,
get that, okay, go ahead.
Quite interestingly, let me say this. This is where, even myself, I always joke myself, this is where most of us Liberians we have problems. We are not willing, almost everybody wants to start business on his own. And in terms of modern business, you see, in fact, right here in the United States, you realize that during the financial crisis, you saw a lot of bank merger and acquisition took place. And that itself it began an opportunity, a new 3-9 business. How many businesses can merge? Company buying another company taking over this company. Everywhere you see there where they have growth opportunity. We need to think on that as people who want to grow. You can partner. If investment startup capital is 10,000, or let's say $1 million US to start a business, and you say, okay, I'm going to work and save, and so that I can start this business. You know, it's going to take you more than 10 years. But if I happen to say today, my startup capital requires $1 million, so I need 10 guys who got $100,000 to buy share in the business or to be a partner. So I put a 100,000, you put a 100,000. By the time you get 10% already, you got $1 million, and you have a good business structure. At the end of the day, it pick up. And you don't have to go to international partner. You don't have to go to international investor. That same business, you can have it and also buy shares in international businesses, and it will grow. So we can't wait for us to have international, foreign direct investors to come in country before we pick up. We need to see how best we can utilize the available capital. Let me ask you, have you ever, you would tell me, most of the Indians and the Lebanese that are in Liberia, how many of them actually brought in capital from abroad and say they bring it to the country that you know?
No, I don't think so.
None of them. The one person will come, at the end of the day, he has few cash, and he start working for another Lebanese. And when he works for the Lebanese, the guy will actually save his income and actually top it up and buy share in that business, open another store for the guy to start up. So the startup capital will come from his employer. So the man is actually the first investor or the first merchant in our store. The man will use our same capital to expand his growth across the country. It's the same thing. So if you look at it, let's not look at the economic side of it. Let's go to it. This is more like a financial literacy. Let's look at the informal, financial services, what is happening across the country. Don't you know that the people who are the Liberian Marketing Association, the Liberian Business Associations, those people have more cash than those who are doing formal business, because they have a lot of cash in a day. But what is very much lacking there is that they are not able to actually sit down and say, look, we can now put our cash together to have one business that all of us can contribute to the growth of it. And that's why the marketers have what we call SUSU. It's the same thing we're talking about. Capital mobilization is what they do at a lower level right there. 5 market women who sell just peanut, and they put $10 together. The first time is a rotation. They give the first person $100. It becomes a financial startup capital for that person. The person open a business and they go to the next person. So why can't we do that? That's the idea I'm talking about, Mr. Jah. There's now Liberians are now gearing up for tax return. And many of the people will have a tax return, and everybody will just individually go back to Liberia and just have fun and just go home and go for vacation. Mm-hmm. Why can't you say 5 gentlemen say today, no, we let's put up some quick cash of $10,000, February 2020, and the $10,000. Our target is to go into what fishery. If we can't go into fishery, let's just leave something and say, you know what, we are going to what? Farming. What can we do?
But how many people get this? They get the skill. Take for instance, let's say if somebody like you or a group, you were able to make all the research and say it will require $50,000 to open this business. It will require $100,000 to open a farming business. It will require 1.5 million to open this. And then, somebody got to drive this because individually we don't have it. So what we do is each person, everybody have project now. We are building houses all over the place. Nobody tell us how to build it. No zoning law, nothing. We are building. Some say, look at schools. Okay, school become their business. And these are all individuals. But you don't blame them because who had that idea to say, to listen to what you say now? Maybe a group of you guys can come together first to be that consultant to say, hey, if you want some business ideas, or how to navigate, how to do stuff, and then I can easily get there. But just like that?
Yes, I think you are asking a very right question. One of the things that these are some of the market opportunity in the private sector that I'm talking about. People have the opportunity to actually establish a firm on business development services. That you can see how best to look at people who already have finances or may not have the finances, but they have other assets that they can translate that asset into a financial capital. So you want to have a firm. Many Liberians have the skills in finance, in economics, in management, business management. These are some of the practical skills that you need to do. So you provide services for people to say, you know what, we can work on this for you. We can work on your proposal. And once we work on the proposal, the business startup, at the end of the day, you win the proposal, you win the capital, this is what we're going to be doing. Another side of it is that you can have a firm that can say, you know what, there are many universities or colleges in Liberia that are producing, graduates, but the graduates don't have that skill, that they can start immediately. Maybe that's one of them say, you know what, we can do what we call human resources development, and you go into that and train people. You can say, you know what, we can train 5 management student or accounting student to become a manager of a firm, and you give them the skill training and give job to them to a private firm and say, you know what, this 5% who is sitting in the United States will show you that we have a management team for your company. We can hire people to run your company without you leaving from here to go back home. You can sit down here and the management consultancy or management contract can be given to somebody and they run the business without you spending any of this.
Yeah.
These are some of the investment opportunities.
Because look at the issue, even to build your own 3-bedroom, people say, well, I have to leave America and go there and physically be there for a month to make sure that my house is built, that the money is not, squandered and things go the way they want. So I have to personally be there. So we need people like you. Jones has just come in. So Alex, let me give you the time.
You see, I took a private jet to the Liberia Central Bank and I collected a whole bunch of money.
Don't joke. They will bring our money back.
So guess what? We're gonna have a protest on this one. But yeah, look, Mr. Debbie, what he's saying, I mean, in a perfect world, that's what should happen, where you have the private sector and people can go out and use the universities and they use, private enterprise to generate economic growth. Unfortunately, in Liberia, it's not a perfect world. In fact, it's an imperfect world. So the only way Liberian economy can get started and jump started is with the knowledge and the skills of the government. Okay, because the government is the only entity in these kinds of broken or undeveloped markets that can generate economic opportunity. You don't have people, institutions, or private capital. It's not going to go into a country where there's no guarantee, there's no insurance, there's a risk of war, there's a risk of protest, there's a risk of, all kinds of stuff. So it has to come from the government. You go back to 1762 in America, during the Civil War, after the Civil War, the government had to come up with projects, right, to generate economic activity. You go to in the 40s, during the Great Depression, the government had to come up to build roads, to fund, to have Social Security, all these programs. So in Liberia, it's not going to happen through private enterprise. Just forget about it. And not through foreign investment either. Foreign investment is not going to do it. I can guarantee anybody $100 billion in foreign investment and go to Liberia, Liberians will still be the fourth or the fifth poorest country in the world. So that does not work. It has not worked. It will never work in Liberia or any developing country.
Okay, Ellis, but Ellis, I sometimes like the way you put it bluntly that government doesn't do this will not work. But the first thing is that where will government get taxes from to ensure that these things are done? When the private sector, when the private sector is not functional, it's not open, people are not producing. What do you expect to do?
Okay,
so my proposal here is that look, there are practical things that we can be looking at, in a sense that look, you have. Besides the management service sector, or in terms of job promotion or job development, job employment creation opportunity, what can we do? If we say I agree, we should not depend on foreign direct investment. What do we do with the local labor? What do we do with local capital? How do we transform this to ensure growth? Because what do we do with knowledge? And you see the technology, that's local technology, how do we improve on it? And this is how countries grow. It's not about the external sector, much about it, but we talk about the internal, just the close economy. Assuming that we don't want to go outside, what do we have on ground? We have a lot of resources. Fishery. So what do we do?
Let me stop you there. You're an economic expert. I'm sure you read about Europe after the war, right? You read about the the war.
The Marshall Plan was given.
The Marshall Plan. Hang on. During the Marshall Plan, what happened? The United States government, right, took $100 billion and gave it to France and gave it to Germany, and not only that, and helped them rebuild the economy. So look at Liberia now as that after 1945. Okay, we don't have our banks that have capitals. We don't have even a fitting business school in Liberia that has the expertise, that has the technology, that has the books, we don't have it, okay? The only source of income that can help spark economic growth in Liberia would come from the $500 million that the government is spending every year to put that money into the economy somehow, instead of just spending it on foreign travel, spending it on pay, right? Which those things, whether not going to generate it's not going to have much multiplying effect. The government has to take that money, let's say the $500 million every year. The government will say, okay, we'll take $50 million of this money and we will put it into the picking farming or office or airline. But who's going to work? Bill Gates is not going to take $100 million or $50 million and go to Liberia and say, all right, let me open. He doesn't have an interest. And business and economics is about the law of self-preservation. No foreign investor is going to do that unless the foreign investor is only going to do that if he's going to benefit at the expense of Liberia, like metal steel. Like what
I agree. Alex, I want us to look at the thing from a practical and perspective. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying here is that how do we expand the private sector? These are the opportunities I'm giving. If you as a Liberian, you sit here, you've done finance and you know that, okay, what do I do? How do I lend money? You don't have the money, you don't have the capital. There are still opportunity. The first thing that there is that you can look for a way you have a sweat equity in some, you can have a sweat equity in someone's business in Liberia. You see a money exchange.
Okay. So let's use me as an example. Okay, I'm
using you as an example. You have a skill to know what it means to multiply a dollar, the interest rate and how to multiply it. So you see a friend of mine just yesterday, he came from Brazil. He got moved because a Fuller guy brought him. He came to his office as a legal person to prepare a lease agreement for a bidding of $150,000, and Fuller man bought a $150,000 cash, US dollar. So he said, but how did you get his money? This guy got his money from just trading down Waterside and other places. So you can now say, as finance person, you can tell this, you can now establish a firm, financial firm, and say, look, you have universities or colleges that are producing hundreds of students every day, and they are walking around going from office to office to get a job. And you say, you know what? I need to now start a job skill training. And the job skill training will be simple as well. Just say financial accounting or to give the
Okay,
men.
but Debo, you're not asking the question, Debo.
No, I'm coming to you, Ellis. Give me chance. Give me chance.
Okay.
Now, Ellis is now going to take this money from Jallo, and with his skill, he can now say, you know what? I'm going to now, Jallo, instead of you waiting to wait for goods from Guinea, I'm borrowing $10,000 and to say that in 6 months, this money will be given to you. So you can now use that money to train so many young people that you can hire them. They sign a contract, integrity contract, everything, and you deploy them with private businesses in Liberia. And in 6 month period, you already got skill set to actually bring up productivity into any private business. These are some of the things that we need to do as Liberians, professional people. But to wait for government to employ you, it becomes difficult. So why if you don't get a job?
I don't hear a question in all of that deliberation. You're asking me as Alice Jones, right?
Yes.
What can I do? Why would I want to go in Liberia to do such a thing? I want to give you the answer.
Because you're going to get a return on that.
Okay, fine. All right, hold on now. So the Fula man, the Mandingo man, the Indian man, the Lebanese man that went to Liberia, right? And they invested in Liberia. Where has been the benefit in terms of Liberia development, economic growth, and living over the last 50 years?
The thing about it is that, first of all, these people are there to actually they're doing merchant business. They're all merchant that's business.
Then I will take a step one further. All right.
Okay.
So the argument making now, hold on. The argument making now that because the non-Liberians, that's why the country didn't grow. So let's go back. Benaire. Let's go back to Tommy Bonaz. Let's go back to all the Liberian businesses, professional, JJ Roberts, all the Liberian businesses, Liberians who open businesses in Liberia, right? The insurance company, the banks. Why Liberian economy and living standard hasn't grown over the last 50 years?
One thing I want you to also understand that there are individuals that have been entrepreneurs that are going to be people who actually source their finances through public funding, like you and the rest of the people get their
Okay, let's move here from there. Let's look at the real business too. Let's look at somebody like professional. Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying what I'm talking about to create.
Hold on. I don't know what is Ellis' point. Ellis, where are you going with this?
The man is saying.
Hold on, before you say that, let me bring in our audience. Okay. Today is open mic on the Business and Economic Forum on Focus on Liberia. We want you to participate, ask your question, give comments. The number to call is posted on Facebook Live. So call that number and participate and be a part of it. Is the telephone conference line. So it's posted. So call and be a part of the conversation. Let me go to you, Ali. What's your point?
Okay. Deb was making an assertion that with all the government involvement, private sector enterprise, particularly Liberians, right? Conscious Liberian should go to Liberia, invest, and raise the living standard. I'm telling him, that would never happen, can't happen, won't happen. So he's trying to, I'm asking him now and say, okay, well, I said, the only way Liberia is going to develop, remember we said right now over 51% of the people live in extreme poverty in Liberia, one of the lowest in Africa. That rate in Africa is around 15%. In Liberia, it's 51%. Ellen brought it, I think, from 56 to 51, and American and then jumping all around the place like they just, invented, a fire, okay? We want the lowest. So he's saying private sector can do it. Let's forget the war. Let's go back in the 70s. Let's go back in the 60s, right? There were private sector Liberian businesses. Why then Liberian living standard was still the lowest? Why then Liberians were never evolved and developed? That's the question I'm trying to put.
Okay, now what I'm saying,
because I want to get him. So you answer that question. Why you think it's so?
The reason is that why I said that Liberians with the requisite skill themselves have not taken risks. And I just will give you an example with, using your square equity, being a shareholder in the business. And it's just, you provide you'll see that many jobs around the world, even here in the United States, are outsourced. Let's say, for example, if you went today to Monrovia and say, you know what, the health sector, in terms of health services, customer services in the health sector, or customer services in the service sector, there's a restaurant, other places. Why businesses fail in Liberia? Customer service is actually one of the major challenges. How do you now say, how do I improve it? You can establish a firm and say, you know what, we're going to be doing customer services training. And you train each of the people
Okay.
and
you get that point. So what is your point? How do you?
My point is that has been attempted in Liberia.
Why has it not worked in your view? Why has it not worked?
Because private enterprises is incapable of generating or spurring economic growth in countries, low-income countries with no infrastructure, with no capital. I'll give you an example, World War II, the Marshall Plan. If that could happen, the French citizens that live in America and Germany, America and Japan, the US government would have told them, say, you guys, you go back to your country, go rebuild your country. You have the skills, you're doctors and lawyers and whatever. Why should we give you money? And that's real economic, this is economic history. After Japan was bombed, the Japanese, they were very educated, they were very industrial. How did Japan come back to become a superpower? It was the government, the Japanese government. Okay, so everywhere around the world, including America, and I give an example during the Great Depression. Okay, it was not private investment that led to economic growth and stability. It was the government. John Maynard Keynes, you studied that. That was exactly his point. That's what he won a Nobel Prize for. That said that there's a certain level of economic growth that the private sector or individuals is incapable of giving. The government has to come up and create that extra, that extra incentive or that extra cash in order to have economic growth. That's the point I'm making. And that's the point I know Liberia wants to make.
Your point here, I keep stressing to you is that to grow the private sector is not only government ability to do it. It has to be with individual, the labor, the entrepreneurs we have, people who have a requisite skill, they can drive it. You cannot say that if government happen to say, today we receive loan from the international community, say like, bro, we are giving you this loan to show that there's a private sector development in Liberia. What do we do? That's how all the money that
will be like,
that is where I'm coming. How do we do it? Government does not run a firm. It's individual that's supposed to run a firm or company supposed to be established to run that. And those kind of entities supposed to be established by Liberians and non-Liberians to see to it that these things are done in the system. Yeah. I just gave an example, just typical example with customer service. You can have a company that you can outsource it to. They do the recruitment of customer service representative in a restaurant across the country or in a hotel across the country. They train them and deploy them. And these are things that actually drive the private sector. Besides that,
Alex, you are saying if you have that company, government should still give them money before they do anything.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying that even if you have those companies, you have those kind of companies in Nigeria, you have those kind of companies in Guinea, you have those kind of companies in many countries. Right. That if somebody hiring 10 people or 20 people, right, or making maybe $250,000 a year, is not going to raise your GDP from 2 billion to 10 billion. That's the point I'm making. It's not going to raise. You're interrupting me. Hold on one second.
It's not going to raise GDP. What is it going to do positively?
Okay. What you call it very, very minimal, if any. Because you're looking at growth. So the mistake that people make, I'm not saying that you don't need private sector. I'm not saying that private sector doesn't help generate or maintain economic growth and activity. I'm saying the government everywhere in the world, all through human history, okay? I don't know a single country that did not have good government policy, right? And that was key and instrumental in the country's development, the government, whether it's Rwanda, whether it's South Korea, whether it's Japan, whether it's China, whether it's America, whether it's Great Britain. So this man is telling me now that Bureau should be that exception in economic modeling, that somehow if the government is incapable to spur economic growth, I mean on a major scale, right? Here I am, that I sit out here with all my student loans, I'm looking to make more money, then I should get up from here, right? I have responsibility and go to Liberia, and then a country where there's no real, the risk is high, there's no system. To start a business take you almost 2 years if you lock it. I'm just exaggerating, but it takes you a long time. Why would I do that? And if I did do that, I will only do that at the territory of my country. I will be like a robber baron. I will go there to do as much bribe, do whatever, because I'm taking a big risk and I'm getting no help from the government. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's why Lebanese people in Liberia do that.
Let me ask you a question. Does government run a firm? Does government run a business?
Yes. The government run firms in China. China Construction Bank is government. China Agriculture Bank is government. China Import Export Bank government. Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae in America is government. They finance they back all the loans in America.
Hold on, yeah. And it's financing. No, let me say this.
Okay,
financing is different from running.
All right, government here run entity. They run the post office. Okay, hold on, the service. Hang on here. But you say, what kind of business? Your public transportation in your city is run by the government. Correct?
Yep.
Your water utility companies are all subsidiary of the government.
Alice, I want you to also understand that your discussion here is that how do you really develop the economy, improving the private sector, reducing reliance on public sector? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Because the thing about it is that you want for us to have government to do everything. And here in the United States, I'm coming. You give me an example. You give me an example with United States. Here in the United States, I will tell you clearly that the United States is driven by private sector. If you go even inside the China, I'm coming. Majority of the jobs created in the United States is not from government. Government has a responsibility, which I agree with you. Government have a responsibility to create an enabling environment, make sure protect citizens, property rights, and everything in the system. That's what government is supposed to do. But government cannot run a firm to create jobs. No, private firms have to run. Companies are owned by individuals, and corporations are established and managed by what? Executive. And that's why you need to train people. You need to have a trained skill set people in the economy to run it. And that's what I'm saying. You have an opportunity. If you said today that, okay, Liberians that are graduating from colleges in Liberia don't have the right skill, and I'm just giving you a simple example that if they don't have the right skill, you as a professional Liberians who are working the corporate system, who knows what they call management of time in terms of production output and all of these things, you don't say, you know what, I'm going to go and open this firm. This is one of the things that I realized in Liberia, and I was telling the CFO for Matter Steel, he's a Malian. This guy was recruited by a firm in in Canada to go to Liberia to become a CFO for Meta Steel. And this guy was actually working somewhere in South Africa. And he sent his CV, he was recruited there. What if Liberians are now saying, look, people who already have a professional skill in this area say, you know what, I'm taking the lead off. I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to start a firm and say, well, you want to be doing recruitment, hiring of individuals. You can hire right staff for the companies that are coming in. Instead of us sitting there and say, government will have to do this. Government will not train those people who already have acquired degree to tell them, say, you're going to have the skill to produce. The productivity depends on the skill set. So the labor factor productivity, what do you get out of that? All of the investment we're having in Liberia, let me say this, foreigners come with a skill set and the money go back. So it's like almost like the money coming in is just enter right back. What do we do?
So what's the challenge in Liberians doing what you just described?
That's why I'm saying the challenge here is that we ourselves are not willing to take risks to go into the system and say, look, let me do this.
Maybe if I understood Alice right, is it is not we are afraid to take risks, but we are not stupid. That's why.
And we don't have the money. Dennis, do you have Dennis? You want join me? Let's put 200 kids together to go to Liberia and start a farm.
No. Let me give you another example. Let me give you
how many Liberians? No, hold on. How many Liberians do you know? Hold on now. How many Liberians do you know here that say they have a savings of that amount of money that they can take out at the same time, pay the bills here and send the children to school to say I'm going back home to Liberia to go throw on the roulette table? Yeah, unless you work for the government or you stole money in the government or your parents stole money in the government, you don't have it. The Irish American savings in this country, the Irish American here have $50,000 in or more in bills. Debt. The white people. Then you talk about Liberian, yeah, we just came here on a boat the other day and we're trying to make our lives come together. You see, we should take money We can barely leave our card note. Let's be real here.
Ellis, I'm thinking that the issue of working in Liberia and working in the United States are two different. What I'm trying to say there, we are looking for opportunities that are out there in the economy. Let me ask you, one of the things that I can tell you that today it became a successful story in Liberia. The LEC is looking at Liberia Electricity Corporation, the jungle water power that took away electricity in Ghana and Nima. That company was actually, there was a Ghanaian company that was actually doing the installation first. You understand what I'm saying? So they come in and brought Ghanaians and employed them and paid them to connect wires. You have people, many young people there who have the right skill to do the work, but there's no one to give the direction to God in terms of management and direction, planning and direction. So if you don't have people taking the risks to see how best they can set a structure like that, let me ask you this question. Have you really noticed? That's one of the questions that I have with Central Bank right now, and we're doing as we do our research, the funding is supposed to be coming out. Why the cash left the bank and it cannot come back? Because many of the people that are playing with the cash are in the informal sector. They didn't trust the banking system. But if you had a place where there's a middleman, someone who is actually playing an intermediate role to ensure that individuals who actually want access just to withdraw their cash are having access by just using their ATM card and this and that to get the cash back, they won't have difficulties to know why money left the banking system.
Okay, so
now,
according to Liberian laws,
it is easier thing. If you have done finance, you want to do financial services. Now you say, look, you know what? I can now open my firm for financial services. Instead of me sitting down and go and do 18 hours or do $18 an hour in the United States, I can say, you know what? I want to make sure that I will be the one to ensure I can play that intermediate role. There's something that is very much important that I'm not saying. I always like to be practical. If you been in Monrovia, if you go to Monrovia right now, there's a young man called Kevin. In fact, the name in our law, Kevin. We were all in Syncor. A young man was in college. I left him, but he was doing money exchange. He used to do money exchange. So what he decided to do now is to say, you know what? He goes to a commercial bank and tell the commercial bank, you have so many cash involved. He takes the cash and come outside, and he became an intermediary for the commercial bank. And now he does the money exchange at higher rate, equivalent to what the commercial bank would do. And where is he today? It's a financial service he's running now. So he does the mobile money for the cell phone company. The two cell phone companies depends on Lord Kevin. Then right now he does money grant service.
What is this?
Kevin.
I think it's Lord Kerry.
They call it Lord Kevin. And he has distribution center across the center in Monrovia.
Okay, tell Lord Kerry. We talk to Lord Kerry. Ask him with all of his success, right? What impact has that had on the microeconomic? What impact? Hold on now. Also, Bureau. If Lord Kerry was so successful, why, for the time he's been doing his business, right? The economy, the GDP has fallen from 3% to 0. Okay, all the inflation rate has gone up, even though Lord Kevin is doing well. So that's the question I want you to answer.
I think one is talking micro and one is talking macro economy. I think that's what's
I think Ellis,
exactly.
Ellis is still going towards government issue, and I think the discussion here today.
Hold on, guys. This is open mic. Let me bring in a caller. Let me put a caller in the line to join it. Because from what I've seen, that's why I say macro and macro economy, like what the two of you talking. But let me bring you out caller, your name and where you calling from.
Yeah, this Moyu from Las Vegas.
Oh, Moyu, welcome to Focus on Liberia Business and Economic Forum. This is open mic. You can react to what you say, or you can say something completely different.
I'm enjoying both Mr. Jones and Mr. Zuo, because both of them are making sense. In the case of Mr. Jones, if you look at the United States and all the successful companies in the United States, those companies have had infusion of capital from the United States government, and the Apple, the Microsoft. In fact, recently Microsoft just won a $10 billion contract from the Pentagon. Billion with a B. So yes, there's a place for government to come in, and there's a book that was written about it by a lady called Mariana Mazzucato. It's called The Entrepreneurial State, and she puts to rest all this stuff that entrepreneurs did all these things, and that's why I say Apple, Microsoft, Cisco Systems are successful. And all those companies, you wouldn't believe it, all those companies had infusion of capital from the U.S. government. From the internet as we know it, it came from the
military,
the Defense Department. I think you all know that. And they pretty much gave it to, the private sector to commercialize it. And what Mr. Zuo said that I also agree with, I believe that entrepreneurship in Liberia should start from, say, maybe the 60s, because we come from a very risk-averse culture. We don't believe in taking risks. I would say now, my father worked for about 45 years with one company in Liberia, and he retired. And even when he retired, he didn't want to retire. He still felt that he had enough in him to work more. So that's part of our Liberian upbringing. We have to start seeing things from a different prism.
Okay.
Instead of thinking, well, only government can do this, or only government can do that. And government also, government has its part. The government creates the infrastructure. They have a very good legal system. Very strong institutions in place. Yes, I believe we can partner. Because the banks they don't give. Even if they give loans, the interest on those loans are so high that sometimes it makes no sense going to the bank. So there are entrepreneurs in Liberia that I know, they went outside Liberia.
I have a question.
And brought in investment. Yeah, and Mr. Zuo mentioned fisheries. Once upon a time, Liberia was dominating Africa in terms of fisheries. We had the most lucrative fishing company in the entire African continent, which was Mesurado. And Mesurado employed tens of thousands of Liberians. Even with Mesurado, you had a lot of subcontractors that even employed more people that are subcontracting with Mesurado.
Okay.
So there's
Mr.
a place
Moyo,
for entrepreneurship in Liberia, but there are little things that we, once somebody get out of high school, and they also, because as I mentioned before, teaching entrepreneurship in maybe the 6th grade up to 12th grade and in college, it will help the young people coming out to start thinking creatively and start reframing what they see as challenges as opportunities.
Moyo?
Yeah.
So that
Yes,
one
sir.
our own. So now talk your own. This is open mic.
You heard all what I just said?
Yes, I said, so come on, go ahead. You reacted to Alex and Depu. So it's now time for you to say yours as part of the open mic.
Okay. Look, we have to start, as I just mentioned, reframing.
Your voice is kind of low. Give us some volume.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, what I said, I agree with both gentlemen, and what I'm saying on my own is that we need to start teaching entrepreneurship from, say, the 6th grade in Liberia, 6th grade and onward, because we come from a very risk-averse culture. We don't believe in taking risks. That's not the Liberian culture. We want to work for someone, work for government. That's why most people, most Liberians that live here, if you look at the percentage that work for government, there are very, very few that go into the private sector. Everybody want to work for government because that's how we were brought up.
Yeah.
That's part of the Liberian culture.
No, I don't think so, Moyo. I disagree with that. I think that is because the politicians have done a good job to make their career attractive. And you guys didn't do a good job to make engineering or business and finance to make it attractive that people want to go there. So if you're doing business and finance, nobody will say Zegwe. Only politicians.
Okay, so that's why I mentioned before, if we start teaching entrepreneurship, if entrepreneurship is incorporated into the curriculum of, from junior high, maybe elementary school upward, we will have a different way of seeing things.
Thank you.
It's just like the story of, you guys probably heard the story of the two shoe salesmen that were sent to colonial Africa, Nigeria, in the 1920s. The first guy got down in the port of Lagos, and those were competing companies. He got down to the port of Lagos, and nobody wore shoes. So he went back and sent a text, a telex to base. I can't sell shoes here because nobody here wears shoes. The second man came. Nobody wore shoes. He ran back in the ship. He said, we got thousands and hundreds of thousands of opportunities here because the natives don't wear shoes. And that the second man became a multi-millionaire because he spotted the opportunity. He reframed what was seen as a challenge as an opportunity. And that man, I think you heard of Bata shoe store. Bata was all over Liberia, all over the West Coast. So we start thinking that we'll see problems and say, okay, all of this problem is an opportunity. Like I always say, for instance, trash. You hit Monrovia, they say, oh, the place got trash all over. Ethiopia saw, entrepreneurs in Ethiopia saw trash, they turned it to electricity. Entrepreneurs in other countries see trash, they turn it into methane gas. So you see the plastic in the trash, they turn it into furniture and all that. We have to start thinking big, and just even if it sounds unconventional, that's the path we need to go.
Thank you, and don't go away. Hold the line. Let my panelists respond to you. Business education. We need to teach it.
Thank you so much.
Let's go first.
Okay, good contribution. But I disagree with you. Okay, then here's why I disagree with you. And I'll just use a practical example. Let's say somebody's in a car wreck, okay, and they're losing blood. They go to the hospital. Let's say before the person got in the car wreck, they had diabetes, they were they had some issues, regular medical issues. They get in the emergency room. Do you think that the doctor is going to be concerned about the person, blood pressure, or the person, not blood pressure, but the person diet, or the person, exercise program when the person needs blood? The only thing that's going to save that person's life at that moment is blood transfusion. And the doctor is going to focus on giving that blood from wherever. The other things are good. They will help the person become healthy. They will help the person, recover faster. Okay. The point I'm trying to make here is where Liberia is in an emergency room. Okay? It needs blood transfusion. So, giving the person all these things that we're talking about, Liberians need to, be more entrepreneurial. Yes, I agree. We need to have better business and economic school. We need to do more programs where people take risk. Okay. But right now in Liberia, what would help us grow, employ people, and maintain this peace, this fragile peace that we have? Okay. And the only thing I see is a speedy economic recovery. If we don't have a speedy economic recovery, we'll continue to collapse, and it could end up in complete catastrophe. Not necessarily war. Ouagadougou, Somalia, they're not at war every day or every year, but look at our economy. Look at Sudan, okay? And you can go around the world. Look at Yemen. So there's a lot of countries have failed state because of bad economic management. So the point I'm trying to say is, I think the purpose of the discussion is what can get our economy moving to protect our peace. And I don't think that's more business innovation. That's what the point I'm trying to make. So do you disagree with me on that point?
No,
including the analogy.
Let me set it straight first. The purpose is not what you just said.
Okay.
We were only discussing private sector development. We were not saying at this time, because this is emergency, private sector is going to do it. No. So,
okay. They make an answer. They make an answer. They make an answer. Who question did it? Don't let the people who protect America and George Weah, let the king speak for themselves. The man can speak for himself.
Okay, Alex, thank you so much for your comment. Mr. Moyi, I want to appreciate you for your comment. You know, what I was saying to Alex is that private individual need to really take risks and go into investment. Government, yes, government will have a capital, but government does not make business. You just gave an example with the issue of Apple winning $1 billion contract. When Amazon were fighting for that contract and Apple won it, Amazon were quite sure that they have taken over the contract, but they didn't get it. But what is important there is that even the federal contract is not implemented or managed by federal government. So individual in the Liberian society need to first of all see it from that perspective. We cannot have I asked one of my colleagues when I was doing the study before I researched just statistics on how many stationery stores in Liberia and how many of the stores are owned by Liberians. And you know that almost all of these office contracts, all the stationery stores, the contracts are all owned by Indians and Lebanese. And you go into government budget and just check there and see how much go to stationaries and office equipment. It's a huge chunk of money. But can this money be, can you have a firm, strong Liberian firm, and say, you know what, as of now, we are going to go into our office equipment and stationery. We're going to compute. Even if we want to compute, one of the things that we're going to be doing there is that as a holding company, the company will be responsible for financing, financial services for Liberians who want to go into stationery and want to be a distribution to negotiate with government in terms of contract. And you have a firm that take contract from one of the ministries that's about $200,000 annually owned by stationery. What will happen to the Liberian? You will create jobs. It's what I'm saying. What we say, government, that is not an opportunity. You see?
No, before Moyo comes in, I always hear people say, oh, the Lebanese man is doing it, the Indian man is doing it. What's wrong with it? If
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. If the people are creating, they are part of the economy, right?
Yes.
So, but I see, the way we say it is like there's something wrong with the Indians, the Lebanese, the Fula making business in Liberia.
That's not true, Dennis. Let me tell you what happened with one of my own people. Listen, a lot of Liberian women are the best, some of the best business people in the world, small business people. My mother was a businesswoman with a 9th grade education, all right? And a very successful businesswoman that was able to send all her children to Hilton Venue and Cathedral and have money things. So we honor our people and say, oh, Liberians are not serious. Oh, Liberians don't do small. That's not true. These women get off our clock. The people are in Liberia, selling bread, doing what, that's business.
Okay, so you agree now. It means not agree now with me.
No. Yes, my point. No matter how hard they work, okay, because the government has failed to provide the sources of funding and the atmosphere for which someone can take a small business, right, and increase it into making that an institutional business or a large-scale business like Microsoft or whatever. That's why we have an anemic growth in our country. It's not that our people are not hardworking. They don't want to do business. The Fula people don't want to do business. The Liberians don't want to do business. We bring ourselves down. If you give me a business right now in Liberia, I'll pack her and go. But we don't have the need.
How will the business come to you, Alice, to sit down here and negotiate?
Mr. Moyo just said, and I will share this with you. Mr. Moyo just said, the Lebanese and these people, first of all, you have to understand, Guinea did not go through a 14-year crisis, okay, where they had to leave the country, go live in refugee camp and do all that kind of stuff. So obviously when they go to Liberia, okay, they're at a much better economic position. They have saved up, They have their families back home that can support them. Liberians are not that kind of situation. So it's not that they're competing. One, first our government destroy all, they put us outside the country, they took everything from us, they, kill us, do all this stuff. Then we come back, we try to sell our cold water again, then we have protests or so they disrupt that. But the Lebanese man or the Guinea man coming from his country, he doesn't have to deal with all that stuff. Okay, so that's what I want you to understand. Look in this country here, why do you think African American, this is the thing, my book coming out, I will send you a signed copy. Why do you think African Americans in this country don't have the kind of economic business and the kind of the one of the largest consumption? People say, well, these people are lazy, these people don't take. It's not true. These are people who came from centuries of oppression, okay? Decades of economic, social, up to today. So it's not easy. And while we're going through all this oppression, guess what? The state and the federal government, all these people were giving out money to other races. So they got caught now, then they got caught in a project place where they can't grow food in the project and all these things. So I'm just saying you got to look at not just the outcome. You can look at just, and I'll give you that if you're looking at the screen, they got the federal and grant government assistance to small businesses. They get billions of dollars. Black people were excluded from programs like this for many, many years until after the civil rights. So if somebody started something, right, that their parents turned over because they got government loans, and now they turn it over to the business, to their children, and their children are not thriving, and they got Microsoft or wherever the case may be. Don't look at it as African Americans here could not have done this thing had they been given the opportunity. And so I get our situation in Liberia, right? Most of our kids are on what you call TPS or whatever thing, can barely work, and we still found a way to make it. And see
yes, Ellis, what I'm saying here is that with that, what is very much important is to see how best to encourage entrepreneurial spirit, make sure you create a more economic nationalist, people who feel, look, this is my country, I can provide job, I can do this already. So now, what is important, I just gave an example just on stationery. If you look at the service industry, restaurant, catering in fact, from the NGO and the government side in Liberia, it's another area that Liberians are actually taking over there. The only thing that there is how best to diversify their portfolio in terms of, the service they provide. What is important here is how can we get involved? And what I'm saying, I can encourage Liberians to do that. If you're in the diaspora or you are in Liberia, you can still do the same service. If you say today, you think why there's no Lebanese or Indian store in Ganta? It's simple that the guys compete with the people and say, you know what, when the man order 10,000 goods, even though we don't have 10,000, we can order 5,000. But as long as the 5,000 have, 3 times turnover in a month time, 11 man goods is still there, 10,000 goods still there, the guys are already taking it, knock the man out of the business. So what Liberians need to do, I just gave another example to a colleague who actually did his education leadership here, he got a PhD. And I asked a question, I said, what are you doing now? He's still looking for a job. No, that's the school system in Liberia. Government is spending too much money on supervision, and those people cannot even supervise. The leadership challenge that there is that someone can be appointed as district education officer or county education officer, and the guy still think that he's waiting for government to send his salary before he moves. It takes pay. But you will see that school attendance, the enrollment, and this and that, rest of it, nothing is tracked. You can still have your farm and say, you know what, I'm going to source this, I'm going to do this as a consultancy and source funding from somewhere and say, you're doing just one county. Let me do the assessment on one county and see school attendance, teacher performance, and just give the data. With your PhD, once you do that, you can still get the money from the NGO, you take it and it still become income for you. Then the next thing that there is that you can now let government know the money that it will take you to supervise that you spend on this money, are just taking 5% or 10% of that from every county. You still make money.
Let me read a few comments from Facebook as we'll soon be closing down the curtains. Moses Corva said government needs to provide a safe environment to private business owners. Rufus Hagba said we don't have enough capital The very few with capital are afraid to invest because the risk is too high. Nobody wants to invest in a very risky business environment. He also said no electricity, very few paved roads. Government has to work more on infrastructure to boost the private sector. Mr. Moyu, just give your final word so you before you drop off.
Okay. Like I said, I learned Mr. Jones and Mr. Zuo. So I have to congratulate you guys for setting up this platform. And like I said the last time I was here, I really would like to see this platform being implemented in Liberia, you know, where the government can be a part of it, the maybe civil society, as well as the entrepreneurs and, you know, people within the business sector, and where we all can get together and brainstorm, have these brainstorming sessions. Because you can't have 325 miles of beaches, the largest virgin forest in West Africa, flora and fauna to die for, and still, we're still, you know, still struggling. How can we unlock our assets? You know, how can we do that and take advantage of what we have, and so the people of Liberia can live, you know, a good life? We have a small population. We're not that many. Some people say we 6 million, but other people say we're 5. But during the Tubman time, they found out that Liberians were lying, because there was one guy at the U.S. Embassy that was into data at that time. Tubman was telling people that the country had 2.5 million people. And this guy said no. He said, I fly all over Liberia. All I see live, one live out here, and, you know, seems like everybody concentrated in Monrovia. And he found out that the population at that time was about 800,000. And he showed his data to the government, and the government confessed that they had been lying. They told him that, well, we did it so we can get, you know, more aid. So our current, we're not even sure of our current population. So we've got everything in our favor, the natural assets, small, tiny population. Hopefully we can tap into the brains of people like Mr. Zuo, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Ja to make a big difference. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And people like you too, you need to come more often on the Business and Economic Forum. Some more you.
Okay. Well, you know, every now and then I'll call.
No, we want you to commit now. That's time. We want you to come permanently, okay? All right.
Okay. You guys have a good weekend now.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Guys, I know we beat the small business development to death. Let's before we close, anything else that we can touch on?
Yes, I think this is a healthy conversation. What I think that we can be doing now is to look at some of the people, some actors that are already in the sector and in the business, or those who have interest in this area, see how best we can have conversation with them. And one thing I can tell you, Mr. Ja, I know many people don't have interest in listening to economic issue. It's not that exciting the way political issue is, and people having the exuberant and Ellison having the year to look for the name, and those things are there. But what is important, the consciousness need to be created among Liberians, and even not only Liberians at home, but also Liberians abroad. I can tell you that one thing, the time I spent here, few months I spent here, I'm doing a lot of reading and this and that, such not over that. One good thing I see is that many people who do just, in fact, online businesses in America right now, people who do self-employment, they make more money, they do go into risk job and insurance and this and that, they do that. They control their own time and start thinking more on how to add value to their time and their money. That's what's happening. You see the Lebanese and the Indians and this and that, they are getting ahead of us. The problem with us is that we have not really concentrated ourselves to say, what do we really want to do? What's my market niche? What kind of business I will be in? And you just focus on it and do it to the best of your ability, you're gonna succeed. And we were there have been some policy paper in Liberia that actually say, in fact, that procurement, for example, procurement, it's a law now that 25% of the procurement, contract should be given to Liberian women, female women business and private sector business, so that in the end, it can create a capacity for them to develop. Okay. Look at road contracts. All of our road contracts are given to Chinese company. 10 years from now, do we hope to remain giving our road contract to Chinese company, or we can have a Liberian company? We got several Liberian companies that are coming up. How do we really trust them? The only thing we're gonna be doing is to see how to do business development service. Some of them, they say, they take the contract and fail, but you can go back and say, we will train these people. A firm can now say that and say, look, let's train the manpower, work habit, work timeliness on job. These are markets opportunity for Liberians to go into it. Ghanaians are doing it. You see people, everybody say, oh, Ghana. Ghana didn't just jump up. Government didn't do it. Ghanaians went in and started doing a lot of services and partnership with government. At the end of the day, they have succeeded. So we all need to do that as Liberians. We need to do that as Africans to see how best we can grow and make our economy more vibrant. That would distract many people from just going to government, going to politics, everybody. Because they know that the only way they will get money is you go you call somebody, you just call, you got money. You know?
Are you talking from experience?
I'm speaking from experience. You guys then call people talk plenty, they just get them job and make money. But if you say that you not take the thinking and how to put things together, the best thing in the end, how do you do it? We discussed about sports the last time. What are some of the opportunities out there? You see, I'm watching President Weah today at a county meet, and he on the how do we really give opportunity individual having soccer pack in Liberia? And say, I'm going to have a soccer pack. One of the young Liberians, he's a friend of mine right now in Monrovia. He wants to have a soccer pack. We got 10 football field where people come and practice. And people come and practice and pay time, they use it. Those things are something that will create job for young people. So thank you very much for the time. I know we'll have.
Thank you. Alex?
Yes, sir. All right. So good discussion. Again, apologize for all the technical stuff, but working through it. But what I would say is this. I don't believe in, patching things. You got to fix it. Okay? If you don't fix it, it's not going to work. And I think to fix a problem, you got to first know what the problem is. And then you can test it with my technology issues. But at the end of the day, that's a solution. And what I see with Liberians, we run from the solution. We just want to get by, And I don't know if my idea are the best solution, whereas I believe that, you need to build those institutions like central banking structure. You need to take it from out of government. You need to get rid of the presidency. Maybe my ideas are ludicrous. I don't know. But what I'm saying, Liberians are very entrepreneurial people. They're one of the toughest people. They're resilient. They're hardworking. So if something is not working in Liberia, it's definitely not so much so of the people's will or want to do these things. It has to be something else. And I think is the elephant in the room. We have bad government structure. And like I said earlier, China went through it for hundreds of years. They finally got a government structure, and then now they're doing well in 20 years. Whether you're in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, in 40 years' time, the people built. Do you think that private individuals want to Dubai and build it? No. The prince came out and said, this is the plan. This is what I'm going to do. It turned the desert into an oasis. So it can work. But let us not shy away. Let us really find out what the problem is. And whatever that problem is, or whoever that problem is, we need to address it. Or else we'll be having the conversation here for another 10 years. So thank you. And I hope we can continue to find solutions to our economic and business problems.
Thank you. And one thing we didn't cover, and just for 30 seconds, if any of you can say something about it. We have a new agriculture minister, and she came from the business sector, who was buying rice from farmers. We had a sister on the program, and she was talking about this same Fabra. And right now, she's the agriculture minister buying rice, processing it and selling it, buying from farmers. Business was successful, and now she's the minister of agriculture. What are the prospects? How you guys who have been talking about, I don't think she was political, maybe she was, but it looked like she was doing something in business, agriculture business, and the government saw that and said, "How maybe she'll be a good agriculture minister."
Yes, for me, I think immediately when I saw it on the Zaidi National website, less than 2 hours, I congratulated her because I know her personally. She and I have been discussing the same issue of agriculture and how to improve production at a lower level and mechanized level. And her son started the Fabra business, and when she got retired, she went back and got into it in the sense that they were buying seed rice from farmers and processes and selling. One good thing about it is that she also have known the problem in the sector. We all discussed it before. There have been a lot of engagement between her and the IFC and the private banking. We were negotiating before that government can give some initial capital for the rice farmers or rice producers so they can make a seed money, a loan for them. Well, to my surprise, I was actually wishing for her to be with her last week, but Mr. Kim didn't get her. And all of a sudden I saw her name. I was just laughing. I said, oh, it's probably that she might have been told and said, no, let me not go and talk something. Let me stay away from her.
Again, you're talking for experience.
So I think she's more, when it comes to professional life and work habits, she has a very good work habit. And my wish is that the government will give her the leverage for her to do her job. That's the only thing about the political setting. Sometimes as a professional person, you have a zeal, you get in it, and sometimes you get knocked down by all the bureaucratic bottleneck. And I want them to give her that opportunity for her to do her work.
Alex?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know her, or I haven't read up anything, but yeah, it's a good thing to take people who have practical experience. Even here, most of the people who head U.S. departments are from the private sector or from academia. So because it's somebody who, they know how to solve problems, because that's what businesses are, people who can solve problems, whether it's a supplier or something. So I think it's a step in the right direction to get more people, to get rid of those recycled politicians, get rid of Tape, the way or Shorter, they need to retire or they need to go into business. So I'm always for, the government going and tapping people who, are not politicians. They're business people. They not even want to be in government, and government can benefit a lot from that. Also to add, I know we're going to talk briefly about the budget, the First Lady budget. I think we'll postpone that because of today. Some of our panelists were not able to be here. We started a little late. I want to apologize to all the people who faithfully watched the show. So we'll take this as a learning experience, and we hope to start on time. Again. So our apologies, my personal apologies to everybody.
Thank you so much, and thank you, gentlemen, for this time. We thank to all those watching us on social media. This is the Business and Economic Forum, and we are still encouraging all of you to be a part. Talk to us, inbox us, give us some ideas. If you have some topics you want us to discuss, please don't hesitate to let us know. If you have things that you yourself want to appear on the show and talk about, again, do not hesitate. This is for every one of you. So join us. Our goal here is to change the discussion a little bit, because it's all politics, and politics cannot feed anybody. Everything centered around money, business, economics. So continue to support us. This evening at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a debate between the opposition women and the pro-government women. We are still working on the opposition women because of some scheduling. Even if they don't appear, we'll have the pro-government women to appear, and we're going to have an open mic for others to call in and counter whatever they will be saying, because it's supposed to be a debate. So tune in less in 1 hour, 30 minutes, we're going to still be right here and doing what we do best. Gentlemen, again, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank everybody. Next week, we have an exciting show lined up for you. Until then, we say good night. Good day. People. We can't stress this enough, man. Liberia is the only country we have.
All right. Thank you so much, Ellis.
Yes, sir.